Question. What kind of bear is best?
That's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear. Fact. Bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not...
Duke, what's with the hair? You got aspirin?
You should feel better momentarily, and your memory will slowly return.
Duke, what's with the hair?
The specific...
Yeah, Bob. You remember Bob, the guy that's gonna launch a nuclear attack? You got any more abuse you want to hurl my way? Or are you ready to go in here and take care of Bob?
What do you propose, Bob?
When in doubt, C4.
done penguin thoughts. So I'm back at you to give you more of crazy, ruffled, feathered penguins thoughts. Before we get started, though, make sure you always have one thing at your disposal. And that would be iced coffee! Sip 'em if you got 'em. I know I do. I need to. And since it's been a while, let me double check and make sure everything looks fine on the stream side, because you never know with the internet. Okay. Looks like I'm fine on YouTube. Hey, Perrin. Glad to see you, man. We got several things we're going to talk about today. We got some weird things going on. And there's Tracy. Yes, Rambling Bob, as always. Well, I haven't changed any of the things, and I'm not going to start now, so it's got to be on you. Sorry, Tracy. I don't putz with my audio. So if you can't hear me, it's all on you. I have not changed anything since the last time I streamed when it comes to my volume. I learned the hard way. I don't do that no more. So anyway, we got several things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some things. Yes, it is. It's you. It's got to be you. Sorry. No. Not buying it. I haven't changed anything on this since the last time I streamed, and I was being heard just fine on Twitch. And everything I'm seeing looks just fine on my side. It's got to be you. Anyway, moving on, because I'm not talking about volume no more. Figure it out. Okay. So, we got some things to talk about Star Trek. And we got some things to talk about. Mark Hamill came out and did an interview. We're going to watch a little bit of that by Star Wars Theory. It don't matter. I'm also on Rumble, so go check it out on Rumble as well. I'm streaming on YouTube and Rumble. Tracy, I'm guessing you're probably listening on your phone, and that's the problem. So anyway, and then we also got to talk about a thing called Stop Killing Games. This Stop Killing Games thing is a movement that's been around for a little while, and it's kind of wild, and I want to kind of get into that. And then, of course, I also got one last thing I want to say at the end of things about the forthcoming law coming up. I don't know what to tell you. Check your settings, because I'm not getting into tech support fixing your computer volume, because it's not an issue on my end. I can see it and hear it just fine. It's got to be on yours. You're also playing a video game. That could also be messing with it. Yes, I see you doing that. All right, let's switch over here. And let's talk about the first subject I'm going to talk about. Let me bring up my thing. Star Trek. Well, Kurtzman Star Trek. And with Paramount Plus pretty much almost disappearing, because they are so financially bankrupt, it's not funny. They have been for over a year in talks with Skydance, buying them. There's been a back and forth with all this. Some of it's also the government's involved, because the FCC, and so I don't think it's the FCC, maybe the FCC. I'd have to look that up. But there's a government agency that's involved in, maybe it's the SEC, that's involved in when a company buys another company, which is what's happening right here, and there's got to be approval on all that. But anyway, let's talk about what's going on here with Skydance exploring the end of Star Trek. No talks with Kurtzman rumored. So this is an article. By the way, all my articles and video links and everything are down in the description of this live stream. You can check them out yourself. So here we go. A new rumor claims that Skydance is seriously considering ending its relationship with Alex Kurtzman's secret hideout, which, to be honest with you, I hope they do. Effectively shutting down the current Star Trek era and putting the franchise on hold, which I kind of agree with some other YouTubers, especially like Neurotic. Some of our favorite IPs like Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, they need to go on ice for a while. They need to have a kind of a hard reset and be taken over by people that actually care about the IP and the things that they're doing. So I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a little penguin. But anyway, speaking of which, I forgot to take a sip. So sip them if you got them. A certain individual, one of my moderators, just kept going on about volume and got me distracted from the iced coffee. She shall remain nameless, but she knows who she is. Anyway, this follows earlier reports on the rumored Star Trek Great Reset, where Skydance was said to be considering scraping the Kurtzman era entirely once the Paramount merger goes through. Now, a new update from the same source offers even more detail and possible timeline. According to the report, Skydance has been seeking legal clarification on what happens if they don't renew Kurtzman's deal. A strong sign the studio may be preparing to move on once the Paramount merger is finalized. And I haven't looked currently to see where they're actually in that, but it has been in limbo for quite some time. So I'd be really surprised if it's actually moved anywhere yet. Anyway, it's also claimed that no discussions, formal or informal, had taken place with the secret hideout about extending the partnership. Even more telling, Skydance is reportedly asking how soon they can bring in a new creative team after the Strange New Worlds wraps, suggesting the decision may already be made. I kind of like that idea. If they're trying to think about, well, I wonder who we can bring in to get rid of, to take Star Trek in a different direction, which, in my opinion, they need to do, because every single thing, in my opinion, that Kurtzman has made that he claims that Star Trek is not Star Trek. The one exception I would accept is either the animated series that was made for kids, that was made by Nickelodeon and not Paramount Plus, or the third season of Star Trek Picard, because it actually, Kurtzman and all them kind of like went off and did their own thing and left it Terry Matalas in charge. And boy, that man loves Star Trek, and he did it right. Nice, good send-off. Anyway, so let's continue on with another article here. This is on Market Watch. This is back in June. Could Paramount's sale collapse under pressure from Trump? Analysts are starting to think so. Paramount's sale to Skydance Media has stalled amid regulatory paralysis, and Lightshed Partners predicts that if a resolution isn't reached by October, the deal will be called off. That's this October coming up. Paramount reached an agreement to sell itself to Skydance Media for $8 billion nearly a year ago. But the deal has been stalled by legal and regulatory issues from the Trump administration. Some of that is because also there is a situation where the Trump administration and our current government is actually investigating wrongful doings by Paramount in regards to CBS and the debate that happened with Kamala But anyway, I don't want to go into there. I don't want to talk about politics. I'm talking about Star Trek. But here's really kind of an interesting thing, though. Trump lawyers claim 60 Minutes with Harris's interview caused him mental anguish. Argue that the First Amendment is not shielded to news distortion. If you don't know what's happened here, Kamala Harris during the election went on 60 Minutes and came out and said that the whole interview she did was unedited, unscripted, and was just her being her. Later on, we found out that CBS and Paramount lied about that. Actually, 60 Minutes, they actually edited after the fact to make Kamala look more relatable. That's what this lawsuit's about. But here's the thing that I want to focus in on. I don't want to focus in on the lawsuit. I want to focus in on some of the things that were said about this. If you notice right here, and actually I just summed up what I kind of said there. He's actually asking for $10 billion in damages. But here, meanwhile, lawyers of Paramount and Trump have engaged in settlement talks. Paramount offered $15 million to settle the suit, which this suit has to be, by the SEC, has to be settled before Skydance can actually buy Paramount. That's part of the thing here, which continues to put Star Trek in furthermore jeopardy because Paramount is bleeding money. They can no longer afford to make Star Trek. They just can't do it. They don't have the financial means. They are so much in debt. That's why Skydance is offering to buy them. Anyway, let's see. A key point. Wait a minute. Where's it at? The Paramount Skydance deal is currently pending SEC approval. Trump appointed SEC Chairman Brendan Carr has maintained the agency's approval of Paramount Skydance is not connected to the president's 60 Minutes lawsuit. But it does have to get resolved legally before they can proceed in buying it. Last November, Carr said in a Fox News interview that a conservative group's news distortion complaint against CBS over the 60 Minutes Harris interview was likely to arise in the context of FCC review of that transaction. In response to an SEC request, it's in examination of the news distortion complaint. CBS News made public an unedited transcript of the 60 Minutes interview. So where was that? Okay. Trying to find, there was a part here where in some of this, particularly, I have misplaced it. That Trump actually made a comment about Star Trek. And he said, why can't it turn back to the way it used to be? Which I thought was kind of interesting. It's like, really? I didn't even know you watched that. But he was also referring to other things that CBS was making in content as well. He wanted, it's like, why can't it go back to the good old days of what television was like? And I agree 100% with that. Because it's like, if you know anything, this current administration is against wokeness, just like I am as well. And Hollywood has been woke for a very long time. Alex Kurtzman is one of the wokest individuals. He's only overshadowed by Kathleen Kennedy over there and Bob Iger at Disney. Seriously. Because I've watched interviews of Kurtzman saying that he was not wanting, that the purpose of Star Trek was not to tell a good sci-fi story. The purpose was to push his agenda. Literally said those words. Not word for word, but literally said that he was pushing an agenda. And he felt like it was a platform for him to discuss his beliefs. That's why I don't have any confidence in current Star Trek. That's why I've stopped watching it. The last thing I think I watched of Star Trek was I watched Star Trek Picard season 3 again. And I need to watch that one more time because that's really good Star Trek. I really wish they'd bring in Terry Matalas. I hope Skydance is looking at him, because if so, that man has worked on Star Trek. He worked with Brandon Braga and Rick Berman during DS9. He also was there on staff working with Star Trek Enterprise, as well as he was a PA during Voyager. He also has had several shows of his own that have been very successful, like 12 Monkeys. I love that show. It's really cool. It's about time travel and stuff. But anyway, nevertheless, I think, once again, hashtag Terry Matalas save Star Trek. I honestly believe that man would come in and do Star Trek right. And we would return to what Star Trek used to be like in its glory days. But we're going to get all these people that are making the bad decisions, like Kurtzman and so forth, and his little team, to make Trek great again. All right. So let's switch gears here. And now we are going to, there was an interview a while back, and I've actually put a link to the original podcast as well as a link to Star Wars Theory, who's a YouTuber I watch a lot. I agree with a lot of things that he says, because he is a YouTuber that is extremely passionate about Star Wars. And he knows his stuff as well. He knows the lore, which is really kind of cool. But he decided to respond to a little excerpt of that interview that Mark Hamill did with, I want to say it was, I'd have to look and see. It's a podcaster I'm not familiar with. I watched a little bit of it. But like I said, the link is down there. It's Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. I don't know who Jesse Thorne is. I've never watched his content. But this is where Star Wars Theories actually watched that interview and gave his thoughts. So this is kind of like a form of Star Wars Penguin Inception, to where Mark Hamill was giving an interview to Jesse Thorne, and Star Wars Theory responds and reviews that, and then I'm responding and reviewing to Star Wars Theory, watching the interview that Mark Hamill had to say about The Last Jedi. So let's get into it. We're going to watch probably most of this and go from there. Okay. There's Theory, and this is that's Jesse Thorne, and this is obviously Mark Hamill. I don't know. I to be honest with you, the more and more I find out about this man, I'm concerned that he's not all there in his head. I loved him as voicing the Joker, opposite of Kevin Conroy in like the Batman animated series. I used to like him as Luke Skywalker. Used to. Not anymore. With some of the things I found out about him as an individual, as well as I don't feel like I feel like he's a voice actor, but not an actor, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's just watch what he's talking about here. Watch theories on this. He says he's disgusted, and I would probably agree with him on most of this.
The Last Jedi is fundamentally the movie that has caused the biggest rift in the Star Wars fandom today.
100% correct. Because if you remember back when Disney released all those, there was hope when The Force Awakens came out, because Force Awakens was kind of like a redo of Star Wars: A New Hope. I remember watching that in the theater thinking, wow, this is maybe going a good direction. Then The Last Jedi came out, and I'm going, well, they blew that one. And I agree. It has caused a major rift in the Star Wars community. And actually to the point to where most people like me, the OG Star Wars guys and gals, just have lost interest. Don't really care about Star Wars, at least not under Disney's reign. It's just all pure junk. The only thing I can honestly say I did like, and Theory liked too, I liked Andor. Because Andor had that look and feel to Star Wars, season 1 and season 2. I thought it was pretty good. It was kind of like a spy, covert ops type of thing inside the world of Star Wars, which was kind of cool to see. But everything else, not so much. I don't have much hope for Mandalorian and the Grogu movie, so I don't know. And for Mark Hamill, I don't understand why all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he decided to do an interview with this guy, Jesse Thorne, and give his thoughts on all this. But it's just really kind of, I don't know. Let's watch it.
Well said.
I hope this video really gets out there and goes viral. It's really going to explain a lot with how a lot of fans feel regarding The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy with this new information that Mark Hamill has released in this interview.
By the way, the link to this video, as well as the original podcast, are down in the description, so you can watch it for yourself.
Which you will see in just a moment. Before that, I want to announce 2 things. So we are giving away 2 free sabers at theorysabers.com. Right now, we're running a sale, Independence Day, in honor of July 4th. I'm working on becoming an American. My visa is pretty much almost through.
Yeah, he's Canadian, if you didn't know.
And from there, then hopefully apply for residency, citizenship, however it works. So, anyways, we're giving away 2 free sabers.
That'd be kind of cool.
Every single Pixel saber purchase. So if you want to get 1 or 2, if you get 3, you get 6 free beginner sabers in your box. We've never done this type of sale. We know you guys wanted it, so we're making it happen just for the week of July 4th. Starting
they look
right
really high
now.
quality
So
sabers. I'd get
Freedom.
one, but they're expensive.
And also, we will be at Fan Expo Denver, July 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
That's still Penguin can't
We'll be
afford
there
them.
on all 4
And what
days.
would I do with it? I'd
Fan
probably cut my
Expo
arm
Denver,
off.
Colorado.
My
We're going to see you
flipper.
guys soon. And booth 1036. Can't wait to see you. And if you're not there, we will see you in the vlog and take you along for the fun adventures. We love you guys. Enjoy this video. It's a hard-hitting one for sure. I get pretty heated.
Fulfill your destiny.
Okay. Here we go. Let's get into it and see what he's got to
Mark Hamill
say.
just opened up about The Last Jedi for the first time in many years. And this was a few days ago on a channel called Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. He did a full interview.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that's the original podcast. I've got it linked down there in the, I watched quite a bit of it. And I haven't really watched a lot of this with Theory. I like Theory's videos, and I tend to agree with what he has to say. So I kind of want to see what he's got to say about all this. So I thought I'd do it with all you. So anyway, like I said, I don't know why all of a sudden out of the blue he's decided to do this. Who knows?
Interview with him for 45 minutes. I'm guessing about a new show or a character that he's playing. You guys can go check it out. I'm going to link it down below. But there is a lot here, of course, where they start to open up and talk about Luke Skywalker. I've seen a clip on Instagram, and I tracked down the full thing, and I have not watched it yet. So this is going to be my first watch through of what Mark has to say regarding Luke Skywalker from George's time, who created the character, all the way to Rian Johnson, who destroyed the character. And we're going to go.
But by the way, it starts, if you watch it on the original podcast, it starts about, I want to say the 19-minute mark or the 29-minute mark. I forget. Hey, I'm a penguin. What do you expect? My mirror ain't always the best. What? Okay. I get nice and shiny. Oh, look. Iced coffee. Anyway,
Go through it and see what's up. Sit back, relax, leave a like, and let's go.
And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault, like an armada. Like, we can slip through because we're the size of a dime compared to the Death Star. So intellectually, I could make sense of it, but now try and make it sound like it's an original thought that popped into your head. As Harrison once said to George about the dialogue, "Hey, you can write this, you just can't say it." I thought, boy, did he nail it. But I have to tell you, so they call in Star Wars, there was a contest
Harrison
on
Ford's
set
another one.
on the call board. You could rename the movie without using the word wars, and no one ever could think of a better title. But
Starfight.
it seems funny.
Starfight? Starfight? What? How about Star Slappers? Starfish Slappers. There we go. Maybe that sounds more like Starship Troopers. Starfish Slappers. Anyway.
I love the original 3 Star Wars movies, but I think
Same,
my
dude.
favorite Star Wars movie might be The Last Jedi, which is...
What? Wait a minute. Back that up.
I think my favorite Star Wars movie might be The Last Jedi.
Dude, he just lost credibility with me. That's insane. What have you been smoking? His favorite Star Wars movie is The Last Jedi? Are you kidding me? There's so many plot holes in that don't make a lot of sense, and they don't follow up in the story, leave you hanging, and quite literally are just, I felt like, out to destroy what we love, that is Star Wars. Parrot, yeah, let's go slap a starfish. Exactly. Starfish slappers. That's the penguin version of Star Wars. Anyway, I don't understand why this guy. Oh man, he obviously didn't grow up with the original ones. I don't know. I have not met too many people go, "Oh, my favorite Star Wars movie is The Last Jedi." Really? Really?
Which is...
See, look at...
Yeah, we got this interview now.
Yeah, see? Look where it's there. He said, see, this is how he got this interview. Exactly. This is how he got this interview, because he's agreeing with, he thinks Disney did no wrong in making The Last Jedi. Oh! Calm down, Bob. Don't let this ruffle your feathers. May the Force be with you. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Okay, moving on.
In a lot of ways, your movie, I think.
Every word of what you just said
What?
was wrong.
The way things were going, where I had the black glove over the hand that I lost, the third one was going to be about Luke struggling to decide whether to go to the dark side or not. So
Funny enough, actually, that was a original concept, was that when Vader dies, the same way as it turned out in Return of the Jedi, Luke was going to take his helmet off, put it on to his head, and say, "Now I am Darth Vader." And that was actually what was supposed to happen. And then George changed it, of course. And if you notice with Luke's tunic, it was all black, and it had that chest plate, that collar that was flapped open with the white. And I always thought that was like a symbolic...
Well, and if you remember in Return of the Jedi as well, there was that whole time that we had the space battle going on around Endor. Luke was there with his father Vader and the Emperor was trying to convince him to give in to the dark side. And spoiler, if you haven't seen Return of the Jedi, seriously, if you haven't seen it, where you been living? Under a rock? Anyway, yeah, I agree. That would make no sense. And I think that's exactly why George changed it. It was an idea that he had, that he floated out there. I mean, because think about it. in Star Wars itself, every Jedi is tempted to go to the dark side because the dark side has things that tap into the Force that seem to be unnatural in the words of Palpatine. And well, and we saw in the first 3 movies how that affected Anakin and how he became Vader. Is he gave in to that temptation all because of Padme and so forth. So, is it something that I think Luke could have turned possibly? Maybe. But to me, it would make more sense the way it actually happened. That seeing the redemption, that's part of the reason why I like Star Wars is because of the redemption story. Because here we go. Anakin Skywalker, who becomes Darth Vader, at the very end, sees his son being killed in the process of being killed by the Emperor, and grabs the Emperor and throws him over the side of the railing, saving his son. And in essence, in my opinion, kind of turning back away from the darkness. He's stepping away from the dark side. And it would make more sense for me, for Luke, who's going to see that and see the change in his own father. And then I agree, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to all of a sudden decide, well, now I'm Vader. The whole time he's been resisting the Emperor, he could have turned any time he wanted.
Sort of mention or nod towards Luke and Vader that, even though Vader was this dark entity, he was in the dark side, he was this black figure, he is always remaining, he always has that little piece of the light side within him.
He does.
And then Luke, who was maybe able to channel some dark side energies,
see, look at that. When he was striking him pretty hard, I mean, look, Luke was giving in to his emotions. That's the thing a Jedi does not do. Because, like Yoda has said, anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
He was dressed in a black tunic, but he always had that white piece that was symbolizing the light side. Even in the prequel trilogy, you can always see how Anakin his face is always half and half.
Yeah.
Go watch it again. You'll see pretty much every single scene in Revenge of the Sith, half of Anakin's face is always in the shadows.
Rian Johnson is one of the most gifted.
It's kind of wild that he noticed that, and it's something I've kind of observed as well. It's like, I thought it was a lighting issue for the longest time. And then it's like, oh, this is kind of like a subtle nod that he's turning to the dark side. Anyway, it's kind of interesting.
Directors I've ever worked with. He's amiable, he's fun on set, he's smart. He made a great movie. I think the staging of the standoff between Kylo Ren, Adam Driver, and I at the end is so well staged. The foreshadowing that I'm not really there. Adam wipes the snow away and you see the red planet beneath. I wipe the snow and it's just snow. I mean, that's so subtle. I love Knives Out and Brick and Looper. He's one of my favorite directors.
He's glazing so that he can I know he's going to say something.
Well, he's apparently trying to,
about all of the clips that have gone around of him that have gone viral, where he's explaining how it's just a movie, that it's not his Luke Skywalker, it's Jake Skywalker, how he fundamentally disagrees with everything Ryan did. I wish Mark would just be less Hollywood about this and just more candid about, look, let's be real. If we're trying to respect George and his character, screw all this bull.
Is the name of your truth.
Yeah, see, this is the part when I watched this part of the podcast, didn't make a lot of sense to me because I felt like, well, why is he coming out now? And it feels like he's flip-flopping again because he is, well, for one, the interviews ever since Last Jedi came out, periodically you would see parts where Mark would disagree with the way he felt his character did, and then 20 minutes later he's back to saying, oh, it's a good movie. And I feel like he's doing that same thing again here, and I don't understand the point. And considering he just a while back said that he's retired from Star Wars and playing Luke Skywalker, then I don't understand the mentality why he feels like he needs to share this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I felt that way when I watched the podcast. I still feel that way. I'm not understanding the motivation. It almost feels like he's trying to, I don't know, butter up somebody or get on somebody's good side in Hollywood. I don't know, and I'm not sure why.
Yourself, you've only forgotten. I know there is good in you. The Emperor hasn't driven it from you fully.
Just say it what it is. Just say it for what it is. Like, he destroyed the character. Stand by your convictions and stop blazing. Like, just say it how it is. And I hope he's going to do that, because we'll see.
Fear of loss is a path to the dark side. The motivation for Luke becoming a suicidal hermit might have colored things in a way that maybe I should have kept that to myself. But I kept saying to Ryan,
"Oh man, don't keep any of this stuff to yourself." Like, this is what actors like. They got to be more like candid, real YouTubers. And I can't even say all YouTubers, because most of them are fake today anyways. There are very few that have actual convictions to say what they mean and mean what they say. And
I'm not fake, although I am a penguin. And in real life, if you actually think behind this penguin facade, I'm actually a penguin, you got issues, dude. But I'll tell you this much. I'm very candid in how I feel, and I let you know. I don't mince words. I mince fish, but I don't mince words. Anyway, but yeah, see, this is the part that I don't understand. If he supposedly cared so much about his character, Luke Skywalker, why didn't he say something? He's the actor. Granted, he may not have the final say, but he can still put his input in there. He's on the portraying what's on the script, what's on the page. Say something about it. If you didn't agree with it, why are you saying it now after the fact? This doesn't make a lot of sense.
they don't flip-flop just for the audience or for
right, exactly. Flip-flop it, baby.
Mark Hamill
He's wearing
said what
flip-flops.
he said in the moment because he truly felt that way.
Let's all repeat the mantra, it's only a movie. And if you think you're going to go into the movie and recapture your childhood, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
So all of
now, see, if it's only a movie, then why is he bothering saying any of this in this podcast? I just don't understand that. That's the part that I just don't understand, because it's like, this is not consistent with what he's been saying since Last Jedi came out. He's been flip-flopping back and forth the whole time. And it's just continuing that way. I don't understand it.
This extra stuff about him feeling like what he said may have gotten the wrong idea in our heads, that we think that he doesn't like Rian Johnson, has nothing to do with that. I don't care about Rian Johnson as a human being. I'm judging him on his ability to portray Luke Skywalker and Star Wars, and that is what he has absolutely failed to do, in my opinion, and divided a fandom, which was his intention. If you've seen that clip rolling around from like 2 decades ago, he said a great movie, in his opinion, is where he creates one where an audience is divided. One half loves the film, and the other half thinks it's the most horrible, useless, garbage thing that they've ever seen in their life. He says, to me, that's a successful film. It's demented.
Hardens his...
See, and that's a problem I have with Rian Johnson here. That's not the point. Why would you want half of your audience to hate what you just did? If you're trying to, I mean, that just doesn't make any logical sense. If you're a movie director, movie producer, I would think you would want to everyone like what you made, right? I mean, why else are you making it? You don't wake up one morning going, you know what? I think my goal is I'm going to make everybody in my life hate me. Who does that? I don't understand that one. Anyway, let's continue on. I know. I'm ranting and rambling. It's what the penguin does. Get over it. If you don't like it, sip some iced coffee. Okay.
Resolve in the face of adversity. So that's all. I said, can I make up my own backstory of why?
Exactly, and that's exactly the thing. And he would have 100% doubled down. Luke Skywalker, as we saw him in Return of the Jedi, would not have given up. He never would have given up. He believed in the good in his father.
Exactly. It doesn't go with the character that Lucas made. The Luke we all know. Luke from the very minute that we saw him in Star Wars A New Hope, standing there on Tatooine, looking at the double suns, staring off in the distance, it was a vision of a kid that had hope and looking at the future and what was out there in the galaxy. And you saw him throughout all these movies. I mean, look at it. Harrison Ford's character was always like, kid, you really just need to wise up. You're not living in reality type of thing. But the character of Luke was very hopeful and so forth. And to portray him as not that in Last Jedi, I feel like they totally don't understand the character who Luke was. He wouldn't give up. He wouldn't be doing it wouldn't be a crotchety old man hidden away somewhere drinking blue milk or green milk or whatever it is. Or throw his lightsaber away when Rey shows up and hands it to him. Anyway, I know we're good. It's going to be forever we get through this. Because this just sticks in my craw, baby.
After all of the stuff that Vader had done, and he continued to double down on it. I sense the good in you, Father. Let go of your hate. He believed in him. He gave his life to save his father because he believed that strongly that his father would return.
And see, I honestly believe that is the very reason why Vader did turn back to the light side. It's because his son's belief in that there was still good in him. It's a classic father-son story. It really is. That's what it's meant to be.
If he wouldn't save Luke, his son, then his father truly was dead. And there was nothing worth fighting for anymore.
Exactly.
For him to just leave and go and
100%.
become a suicidal hermit, as Mark Hamill just said again.
Come on! What's the matter with you?
Tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow.
That's Jake Skywalker, and that is The Last Jedi is fundamentally the movie that has caused the biggest rift in the Star Wars fandom today.
Well said.
100%. 100% agree with that. A man he didn't even know at that. I'm not sure what you mean, Perrin. But either way, it's a situation to where it's obvious to me Disney and Rian Johnson and all them that were involved in making the sequels were totally clueless and, more importantly, didn't care about what Star Wars really was or the actual heart and soul of each one of the characters. I mean, this is just a classic example when it comes to Luke. I mean, for Luke to be the way he is, oh, is that what you meant? That said Luke didn't really know his father, Vader? Yeah, true, he didn't. But that speaks even more volumes to who Luke is as a character, that he chose to believe that there was still good in his father, regardless of how he really knew him or not. Right, right. Well, and he did know a little bit about his father from what he learned from Ben. Obi-Wan shared with him. But still, at the same thing, I mean, there was also the part, if you remember correctly, there was also the part when they were actually, in Empire, when they were actually dueling and they could read each other's thoughts. I imagine Luke at that point really got to kind of see the inside of what Vader was as a person, who his father was. And that's why, if you remember correctly, even in that little thing, he says that he sees the light in him. He sees the good in him. I honestly purposely believe that that's why Luke felt the way he did and wouldn't give up on his father, even though he barely knew him. But in a way, he did know him. because of the connection through the Force. Because you remember, that's the scene when Luke was trying to hide his thoughts about Leia from Vader, they were connected through the Force, and they can read each other's thoughts. Because I honestly believe Luke was as powerful as, he had Anakin's blood in him. The midichlorians, if you want to go that direction. Nevertheless, my point is that I honestly believe that Luke, I agree with what Theory said. Luke wouldn't have given up, no matter what. He wouldn't have ended up the way they made him out to be in The Last Jedi. He wouldn't be a crotchety old man, a hermit, suicidal, wanting to give up. I don't think he would have turned on his nephew like it shows. Anyway.
If that movie had gone well and we had gotten the Luke Skywalker from NJO, the Luke Skywalker freaking 20, 30 years after Return of the Jedi that we were supposed to get, who was banding together a group of Jedi that was strong and powerful and even more rooted in his ways of just being a hopeful, positive being for the galaxy and a savior, the Star Wars fandom would be in such a better place.
Oh,
it wouldn't be so political.
100%.
There wouldn't be so many ists and phobes thrown out everywhere if you didn't like a project or something. The very vitriol within the Star Wars fandom is not necessarily due to either side fighting each other. It's due to a lack of understanding that the Star Wars fandom that was before The Last Jedi, the true George Lucas fandom,
exactly,
that was in love with the story, in love with Luke Skywalker, and looking forward to seeing what Disney would continue. But Disney...
100%. I still firmly believe that Disney dropped the ball in one major thing they could have done. And that's put Luke, Leia, and Han together in the same scene. They didn't do it. It's because their goal was not to tell a good Star Wars story. Their goal was to destroy what Lucas made so they can create their own. Kathleen Kennedy has gone on record as saying that. We watched it even on this podcast way back when Film Threat put Star Wars on trial. Is one of the things that came out on record that Mateo Kennedy did not want the direction of Star Wars to go the way Lucas created it. Yeah, they threw it away, exactly. They absolutely 100% made a conscious decision to destroy everything as we love and know as Star Wars so they can make their own wherever it was. That's why, for example, to me, there are only 6 Star Wars movies. Period. 6. Because they're not my absolute favorite, but in a lot of the sequels, I like the prequels. Oh my goodness. If you watch the sequels and then you watch the prequels look like gold now compared to the sequels. But of course, my all-time favorite movie is still Empire. Star Wars 5. Episode 5, baby. All right. Let's continue on.
Disney wanted to break it. They wanted to create their own thing. And that's exactly what Rian Johnson did. And they destroyed this hopeful character of Luke Skywalker, arguably one of the most important characters in all of movie cinema history, just to put his lick on the frickin' produce and put it back on the shelf.
Pretty much.
And they have completely left the building.
This is some good shit.
Like absolute assassination of a world-famous character that brought so much hope and love and strength to so many kids and people around the world for so many years.
Harrison Ford again.
Well, because you know what? If you boil it down and you look at the whole story that Lucas created as Star Wars, it is in the core of it a struggle against good and evil, and it has a redemption arc in it. Who doesn't love that kind of a story? That story is old as time. It's the story like you find in the Bible. Oh, I don't know about a really good Savior named Jesus Christ. And because of him, we all can have that same redemption that Vader went through. That's a weird parallel I just made, but nevertheless, I think it works. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm a penguin. What do I know? Remember, starfish slappers. Anyway, going on.
Fans, they do not understand this, and they think we just hate The Last Jedi because of Rey. I don't give a shit about Rey. I give a crap about Luke Skywalker.
Actually, to be honest with you, I think Rey could be a good character if they did her right. I honestly believe. I feel like they kind of. There was a couple characters I liked in that. I mean, I liked. What's his name? I liked Finn. I thought Finn was a good character, but they did him wrong. Rey, like I said, could have had a very good story, but it proves to me that they don't know how to tell a good story, let alone a good Star Wars story. So I don't know. It just, it's all because I honestly believe, still to this day, that this was all because of Kathleen Kennedy, and she was pushing her agenda. It's all she's ever wanted to do. Because look, not just the sequels, but every single show, with the exception of maybe Andor, Andor was ran by somebody else that indirectly reported to Kathleen Kennedy through Dave Filoni. So Kathleen Kennedy wasn't as actively involved in Andor as she was other ones like Ahsoka and the Book of Boba Fett that put her thumb on all this and just squished it like a bug. Anyway.
And he was ruined.
What could make someone give up a devotion to what is basically a religious entity, to give up being a Jedi? Well, the love of a woman. So he falls in love with a woman. He gives up being a Jedi. They have a child together. At some point, the child, as a toddler, picks up an unattended lightsaber, pushes the button, and is killed instantly.
This is his backstory, but here's the part I don't like. He just kind of turned this into a story about gun safety. Why go there? This is Star Wars. I mean, I understand that maybe that's what you think your motivation should have been in his version of The Last Jedi, but once again, it's still pushing some type of an agenda. Maybe, I don't know, make it more of an interesting story.
The wife is so full of grief, she kills herself.
Well, I don't know. Luke wouldn't just leave his lightsaber laying around, and he would sense if his son was going to go and grab it.
Exactly! See? Theories on it. He knew. Luke isn't irresponsible. He was a Jedi, for crying out loud. Actually, the only Jedi around. Well, there's a debate on there were some still in hiding and so forth. I mean, obviously, like, there was Yoda, but nevertheless, you know what I mean? He was the one that actually, that at some point in the extended universe went on to, and actually in Lucas's vision of like what 7, 8, 9 should have been, is it's a story of Luke rebuilding the Jedi. And Mara Jade and all that. So I don't know. But I agree with what Theory just said there. Luke wouldn't have been that irresponsible and left the Jedi, the lightsaber lying around. And if he did, he would also know that all of a sudden, sensing that his son was going to go grab it and be in danger, he would find a way to stop that. So I don't necessarily agree with it. This is, to me, this is Mark Hamill trying to push his particular form of agenda or politics or thoughts or whatever on it.
I'm pretty sure. So he really had to do some mental gymnastics in order to play this character. Like, I'm sorry, Mark. This is literally probably what he turned into, trying to mentally do those gymnastic moves in order to play Jake Skywalker from Rian Johnson. It probably broke him.
You have definitely got the best role in this film,
You
haven't
think?
you?
You think? Top dad entrance. Wink. That could possibly, but he didn't have the time to tell a backstory like that, I'm guessing. He just wanted a brief thing.
No, they chose not to tell
It's
one.
not
They
that
could
Rian
have.
Johnson didn't have the time. It's that Rian Johnson didn't even know. He just wanted
Right.
to create shock value.
Exactly.
He wanted a contrast. If
Parents should have just used the Heir of the Empire series, just advanced the timeline. Yeah, I agree. That would have been good. But once again, that's also assuming a level that Disney cares. Lucasfilm, current Lucasfilm knows what they're doing, and they really actually want to tell a good story, a good Star Wars story. None of that is reality. It's sad. And that's why, to me, Disney Star Wars is still dead. And all they're doing right now is kicking the dead horse down the road more. Why? Just bury it already. Move on. I hate seeing the damage further. Stop the bleeding. Either fix it or stop it. And I don't see them fixing it. So stop it. Almost picture them as, here's a visual, almost picture them like Kathleen Kennedy's the kind that's trying to get into the cookie jar because she wants her way. Well, just walk right up and be the parent, slap on their heads and stop it. You'll ruin your dinner. Anyway.
Had written Luke to be some suicidal hermit, Rian Johnson would have done the opposite. He would have made him who Luke Skywalker really was. I don't think Rian Johnson even knew why Luke ended up doing this. The reason behind it in The Last Jedi, listen, I've studied The Last Jedi more than The Last Jedi fans. I have tried to understand this film for my own sanity. Forget the channel.
He
forget
has.
The theories.
I have watched multiple videos that he's made on this, on just The Last Jedi alone. It's once again, you had to come to the conclusion like he has. It just doesn't make any sense. They just did this for agenda's sake. Kathleen Kennedy and her stupid, the Force is female thing. Anywhere. Yeah, Hollywood has no decent storytellers left. Exactly. Actually, correction. They do. They just won't hire them. Because that would make too much sense.
Forget the videos. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, where Luke Skywalker was arguably the most important character to me, I tried to understand what this guy did to my character so that I could sleep at night, so that I could love Star Wars still and not feel betrayed by Disney. And then, of course, you get, all these other people like doubling down and Andy Gutierrez saying Luke Skywalker fanboy tears and all of this stuff. Pablo Hidalgo, emotions are not for sharing. All of this crap. It's not only like you destroy our hero, you then make fun of us for it. And you wonder why the Star Wars IP is wonder why so many Star Wars YouTubers have turned their backs. You wonder why nobody watches Star Wars shit anymore. No one's buying the toys, why the shelves are all full. The hell, Walmart isn't even buying Star Wars toys for the characters. Nobody wants a Rose Tico. Nobody wants a Holdo. Nobody wants a Luke Skywalker Last Jedi.
McQueen is fading! McQueen is fading!
Those were characters we grew up with and that we loved. They made sense. They were relatable.
I'll tell you right now, when I was growing up, the aisles always had Star Wars toys, but the most popular ones, like finding a Luke Skywalker action figure to play with was sometimes hard because they were sold out quite often. I remember because I wanted to get one. I love my parents for this because they bought me Star Wars stuff like all the time I was growing up. I had all the different ships and everything. And I wanted a Luke Skywalker in the brown and tan outfit that he looked like, as a Jedi. But every time we went to go see that to try to find it in the store, it was always sold out. I ended up with him wearing his X-Wing pilot outfit, which was great, but it's not the one I really wanted. That doesn't happen today. Oh my goodness. If you go and find Star Wars toys in any of the stores, they're not being sold. They're just sitting on the shelves. Anyway.
Skywalker in The Last Jedi is not relatable at all. You start out as a weak, whiny farm boy with no vision of whatsoever of the future. You go through trial and error, Empire Strikes Back, you lose your hand, he's your father, Return of the Jedi, you come back, you're trained. You still lose. You throw it away for love. You throw your life away for love. You don't fight back. And in the end, your father redeems himself. He saves you. The galaxy is redeemed. The galaxy is saved. Then 30 years later, you end up just abolishing everything because your nephew has some bad visions, or you think he has some bad visions. Or
yeah, see, that part right there I always thought that was stupid, The Last Jedi. It's like, really? So now you're the thought police, Luke? How do you know he's not just having a nightmare or giving into thoughts of temptation? But who knows if he's actually going to go to the dark side or not? He just automatically leapt to that. That's not who Luke was. Luke was hopeful. He saw the good in everyone to the point of almost being sickening as a character in my mind, of way too hopeful. I mean, it's kind of what he rubbed Han Solo the wrong way a couple times because of that. Because, he just kept saying, hey, you're just a kid. What do you know? Type of thing. But it's that enduring, ever holding on to seeing the best and the hopeful that Luke was. And then that's all gone in an instant, 30 years later in Last Jedi. And then you see somebody on the screen that is the original actor playing it, but he's not playing a character you grew up and known and loved at all. Not even close. Anyway.
Or you imagine him doing things, and instead of actually trying to double down and work harder to make sure he does not turn to the dark side. I mean, forget Darth Vader, who already was like into the dark side for 20 plus years, had done horrible things that Ben Solo never did. And yet you still try to turn him back to the light, which is much harder than what you would have to do with Ben Solo, where he didn't even do anything.
And Ben was also under Luke's tutelage. Luke could have steered him the right way. That just doesn't, it just, from a story standpoint, it doesn't make any sense.
Was maybe confused. So you show up in his sleep at his bedside with a freaking knife, with a lightsaber, and he wakes up. And then that makes you abolish everything and run away?
It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
And a Jedi who saved him. Yes, the most hated man in the...
Yeah. Whatever. This movie.
It destroys your temple, which in the comic, and people think I don't know the sequel trilogy. I know it better than, I would say, most people, most sequel fans. I had to study this to understand it. You want to know how...
Like I said, you can go back to his channel. I recommend to it. If you're someone like Star Wars, he breaks down and dissects each one of the movies in the sequel trilogy. Because, like he said earlier, he's trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong. He's wanting to find a reason to still like it, to still love the franchise he loved all this time. I know, because I've seen several of those videos. And I feel the same pain with him, dude. I can relate, Theory. It just breaks my heart a lot of times seeing Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, all these great IPs that I grew up watching and loving just turned to utter junk because somebody wanted to push an agenda. It's discouraging to me at times. And don't kid yourself. We're still in the middle of all this. It's not over. The fight with wokeness is not gone. They're still there. It's still out there. If you don't believe me, go to Disney Plus and watch the Ironheart series. I watched maybe about the first 10 minutes of the first episode. I stopped. It's like, really? Yeah, not surprised. It's not gone away yet. They haven't got a clue. Anyway.
How the Jedi Temple, Luke's Jedi Temple was destroyed, how all of those students pretty much killed. Not really Ben Solo. Finger. Boom.
Ben leaves the hut, and this is the aftermath right after what just happened in The Last Jedi's flashback. He looks to the temple, and it literally combusts into flame and electricity. If there's one thing that's Palpatine, it's electricity, and that's, symbolizing that he's returned or he's doing this. Now, we saw in The Last Jedi that Yoda did this as well to the Force tree with the sacred Jedi texts, which we all know Rey actually has. So it's not really far off that Palpatine could have done this as well with Luke's Jedi Temple. I mean, there are Force bubbles and shields, but I just think this is really
Yeah, and remember, in The Last Jedi, we thought Palpatine was gone, right? Then come find out with the rise of Skywalker, the Palpatine was still around. Good old Pappy Palpy.
undermines everything that we've been coming to learn for Kylo's arc, whereas, we thought that he was the one who actually destroyed the temple and killed the students, but now we realize he didn't, so he's really not a bad guy. It's just confusing. I don't know. Kylo is blasted back, and he sees that people are dead. The Jedi Temple is on fire and exploded and in flames and pieces. He says, no. No! He tries to enter the temple to save people, and then he just gets thwarted back once again. Just like what Yoda did to Luke, but now, Palpatine or Snoke is doing it to Ben. He's cool.
Yeah. Let's move on here, back to the interview part here, because I think, because there's a little bit more here that I'm not going to watch all of this, but there's a little bit more here that Mark talks about, even more about his backstory that he would like to have seen happen. I don't know. All right, let's
to explain it. And to me, it didn't justify it. That said, and I told him this, despite the fact that I disagree with your choices for Luke, I'm going to do everything within my power to make your screenplay work as best that I can.
Well, yeah, he was getting paid $10 million or something like that to do it.
Of course.
He's an actor.
Do his
at the end of
job.
the day. He signed a contract. He got paid. Boom. He's going to do
An
his job.
adult pretender,
The
yes.
only thing unfortunate about that is I've heard comments from fans who think that I somehow dislike Ryan Johnson. And
I don't think anybody thinks you dislike Ryan Johnson, Mark. I think people want to just see you be real. I think people pay for your photo ops. This world don't even give a shit. He's doing his job and he's succeeding. Or in holding up that little cue card, shit. These guys that of the his own.
Trying to skip through back to where he's talking about the interview again.
Nothing, just
not
really
that I don't want to hear what Theory has to
Let the
say.
shit
I
end
do,
you, the
but
shit fan.
come on.
As a
Okay, here we go.
lonely
Back
wonderful
up.
about.
All right.
There was something wonderful about watching you as a lonely person enduring a sort of crisis of faith, not just a crisis of faith of, the religion of the film, of the Force and being a Jedi, but just to wonder whether you have your own place in the world, like whether your life is meaningful.
right.
You know.
Well, yeah. I agree.
Three rolling his
Bullseye with
eyes.
Jesse Thorne. I would love to debate with you the last to ask about the film. It's when you destroy something like Luke Skywalker. I've seen it and if you
Come
have
on, get
see
on to
his
the
face
rest of it.
and Jedi Knight. You want something different. That's with Schwarzenegger, Norris. Get tough, sulk, weak, give up. Yamcha. Even these guys have part of life, but belong.
I'm still planning on going back and watching the rest of this because I like to hear what Theory has to say about things. But I don't want to be here all day. I don't want to spend the next. Cause I can't watch it without commenting because, well, you know, it gets under this
Where
little
do I
penguin's
belong?
feathers, and
What's
I
the
gotta
point?
say the stuff I gotta say. But I want to get into the part where there's a little bit more that he talks about. I hope it shows it. Come on. There we go.
Yes, this isn't even regression. This is just a literal different character.
I never knew that my favorite part of Star Wars would be a guy milking a space walrus, but here we are.
Well, there you go.
Are you kidding me? What? That's like one of the worst parts of the whole film.
Yes. I can't even remember the
Weird.
I have some character that's
Weird.
only in a video game. And he goes, and he describes the character. So I'm saying, I have no idea who that is. And he starts, it describes the character in detail. And he goes, and it's in, and he names the game, so it's canon. I mean, the Colbert writers.
What's the name?
Ogdo
Ogdobog. Oh, yeah. That's in, oh, I know what game this is. This is Jedi Fallen Order. I played that game. It's not a bad game. It's fun.
Right, something like that. That guy was such a big deal. Oh my gosh. You guys remember those streams? Yeah, that was good times. You know, shout out to this gentleman, Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. Jesse Thorne for getting this interview. I don't know how you did, and frankly, this is probably going to have a lot more views.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's kind of astounding to me too. Is if you look at how many subscribers he's only got 5,000. So I don't know how he scored this. Good on you if you did.
Now,
but, you know, at the same time, I don't agree with a lot of what he said. When I watched the podcast, it's like, dude, you're on the wrong side of the tracks, in my opinion, when it comes to Star Wars. So, anyway, let's move on to the last and final subject we're going to talk about here. Actually, next to last, because I don't want to be here all day. Because I will. Because I want to say the rest of this is probably just him talking. Yeah, it's more commenting on what. But anyway, I encourage you. The links are down in the description. I love Theory. I love his comments, his stuff on things. He normally spot on, in my opinion. So I encourage you to go and like and subscribe him. And if you love Star Wars like I do, there's enough good stuff out there that he talks about on his videos that gets into the good Star Wars lore because he likes staying within the Lucas canon. Now he'll talk about stuff that's outside canon, like the sequels and stuff, but it's more in the line of giving his thoughts on it and everything. But he also he talks about like the Star Wars comics and things like that. It's really good stuff. You gotta check him out. Plus, I think he's already, I don't know when the second part's going to come out, but he made a fan film a number of years called Vader, and it's supposed to be part 2 supposed to be coming out soon. I'm not sure when, but it's really good. Anyway, so switching gears here. There's a thing there's a movement that's going on now in video games called Stop Killing Games. And we'll get into a little bit about this. We're going to watch another YouTuber I like watching periodically. Actually, I tend to watch him more on Twitch because it's what he's streaming on Twitch, called Pirate Software. And he explains a little bit more in depth of what Stop Killing Games is. But it is a movement currently that's been going on for quite some time. It's getting some steam, so that's why I felt like I needed to talk about it a little bit. So let's switch over here and we'll talk about it. All right. Let me zoom in on this so you can see this a little bit better. This is actually on StopKillingGames.com. The links are once again down in the description. But Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. They're really talking about a lot of live service games. Like, for example, I know one that Tracy plays a lot that loves is Once Human. And Star Studios devs decide that they no longer want to support it and shut off the servers. It means you can no longer play the game. There are lots of games out there like that right now that if the devs just decide to turn off the servers, a game you maybe paid for. Now, Once Human is free, but other games like this that you paid for, you no longer can play. One that I love that was a live service game called Star Wars Legends. And it's Lucasfilm shut down the servers years ago. But there has been a fan uprising out there that created their own little, and I play it occasionally. I've even played it on stream before, of that game to where they started up their own personal server. They were actually in contact with the original devs and they got permission to do so to make their own little personal server. And I'd say there's about maybe on any given weekend, maybe about 1,500 people playing the game still on a regular basis. And the game is quite old, but it's a good game. But it's a game that they didn't get permission from the devs, you'd never be able to play again because Lucasfilm turned off the servers. And that's what this movement is about. Stop Killing Games. So let's get into a little bit more about it, and let's watch a little bit explanation from Pirate Software on what Stop Killing Games is.
Hi, my name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same.
He's also a developer of his own. He was working for those other companies, but he also develops his own software. So he kind of is in the know in all this. He's on the backside of this, so he knows what he's talking about to a certain extent.
Same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now. I also run a massive community. We've got about 180,000 people in Discord, and most of what I do is try to teach other people how to make games, teach them that they can make games, show them the tools to do so, and try to do everything without any paywalls or bullshit in the way. It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so that our medium doesn't die out, and it never will. And
actually, that's how I discovered him, and I've watched a couple of his videos on how to make games and stuff. He makes pretty easy so you can understand. It's kind of cool. I actually thought about it at one point about making my own game. But I'm not a programmer, so it would take a long time for me to be able to do that. Nevertheless, it still interests me.
That's the whole intention of all of this. So with that in mind, that community brought me this and tried to get me to sign it. And I don't want to. Number one, I can't because I don't live in Europe. But number two, I wouldn't sign it even if I could. And I'm going to kind of go through this and try to explain the reasoning as to why that would be the case, without all of the internet hate machine that's grown up around it. So let's go into how this works and why this is an issue to me. First things first, what is an initiative? So an initiative is actually not law. It is something that you put together so you can put it up in front of representatives and they can start the conversation. The reason why I have a problem with Stop Killing Games is specifically it starts the wrong conversation. If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single player experience, and then taking away support in the future, this ain't it. And the reason why is specifically on this initiative, under its own description, it says, this initiative calls to require publishers that sell or license video games to consumers in the European Union or related features and assets sold for video games they operate to leave said video games in a functional, playable state.
Yeah, to leave the gist of what I get this movement is the Stop Killing Games it is the consumer gaming community out there fighting back and saying, hey, we still want to be able to play the games that you're making even after you stop wanting to support them. Especially since it seems like a lot of the games nowadays are all going toward live service, which means the game is 100% reliant upon the server by the developers. Without that server, you can't play the game. You can't play it with your friends. You can't do anything with it. It's dead. You would never be able to do it again, which personally bugs me because I've seen that happen with some games. Some games are like that. I just talked about one that when it first happened, it's like, oh man, I can't ever play this again because the servers are down permanently. But luckily, at the time, the ones that made that private server got permission to do so, and they were able to do that. But that's an exception, not the rule. So but most of the time what happens is you play a game you really love, and then eventually, if it's a live service game, the developers decide, we're going to move on to the next thing we're making. We're not going to support this anymore, and they shut down the servers. Well, what does that mean for your game? It means you're out of luck. You can never play it again. Period. And I don't like that. I don't. Because especially if you end up paying for that game. It's kind of like almost they ripped you off. You bought the game so you could play it. That was the whole point of you buying the game. Anyway.
Specifically, the initiative seeks to prevent the remote disabling of video games by the publishers before providing reasonable means to continue functioning of said video games without the involvement from the side of the publisher.
Exactly.
This isn't always possible in all video games, and
Correct.
It doesn't call out the specific practice that this is supposedly trying to defeat. It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games. How would you keep League of Legends in a functional playable state? You'd have to re-architect the entire game. The game is what is called client-server. So in client-server models, there's a server and there's a client, and all of the math, all of the game, everything happens on the server.
Exactly.
The client just displays it.
For those of you that have ever messed with Second Life, Second Life is a good example of this. Without the Linden Lab servers, Second Life no longer exists. You can't get into it. You can't do anything with it. It's, once again, a live service situation. Your client is just accessing the server to allow you to play that game.
And the reason we want to do it that way is so that you can't teleport around and do a billion damage. You don't trust the client. You trust the server. The client just displays what it's told, right? So if we wanted to re-architect this, we'd have to take all of that server logic, push it back out into the client, and somehow make that playable in a multiplayer-only video game. That doesn't make sense to me. So this isn't going to work for all games. Why is it calling out all games? And it's really easy to say like, oh, that'll get worked out down the line. But we're dealing with government here. If we're going to be putting up these types of ideas specifically in front of government, we need to be calling out the right issues, especially if you don't have precedent set. Because now you're going to be setting precedent on something that doesn't make any sense.
Now, I haven't even looked to see. Right now it's just on the European side of things. I don't even know if it's even going to come to the U.S. or not. So, those of us that are American, it doesn't really, this initiative is not something we can even be a part of. But I will say this much. There are people out there that are saying that there are two sides to this coin on this, and there's a discussion that's currently happening with it. And I'm seeing it's getting steam. It's starting to, so I don't know if anything's going to happen about this, but I do know that I don't know if I agree 100% with what Pyro Software is saying here, but at the same time, I get his point. For me, I'm more just looking at it as, okay, I know this can't apply to every game. For example, playing a game that is solely 100% single player on your computer that you don't need to have a server to access. For example, a good one that comes to my mind, Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay. There is an online component to it called Red Dead Online. Now, that part, if Rockstar shut down the servers, you could never play online again. But, at least not on the official servers. But, you can still play the story side of Red Dead Redemption anytime you want because it's not reliant upon the server. Now, for example, a game that I've really been playing here recently, Dune Awakening. I can't play that game unless the servers are online. If they're offline, I can't play the game at all. My client has nothing to connect to. I can't get into Arrakis to make funny faces at those sandworms. So if by some chance Funcom, which I don't see them doing that because they still even support Conan Exiles, who made they're the ones that made Conan. With Dune Awakening, if they decided one day they don't want to have to support the game anymore and shut down the servers, well, guess what? The money I spent on buying that game is gone. And it's not, for me, it's not so much I'd miss the money as I want to be able to still play my game. I still want to be able to do things in it. And this is the part where I agree with the stop killing games part of it. That I agree with the part of the initiative that this is a thing that I'm seeing more and more because there's more and more developers are moving to the live service server client model of games because people like playing multiplayer. They want to play with their buddies and their friends, and you do that through a server-centric situation as opposed to peer-to-peer. I don't want to get into the networking side of that, but nevertheless,
with
we're going to watch a few more minutes of this,
understand
and
the
then
nuance of our industry. All in the
that's
name
about
of
it.
saving games. I can't agree with that. So let's go into why this is happening. Right. So why did this start in the first place? What is these specific cases they've called out that are egregious?
Yeah, and the main reason why we're watching this is he not only does he give you his opinion, but he also explains what the thing is really about. And that was the whole reason why I'm actually wanting to show it.
And they have one. It's The Crew. So action on The Crew. The video game The Crew, published by Ubisoft, was recently destroyed for all players and had a player base of at least 12 million people. Due to the game's size and France's strong consumer protection laws, this represents one of the best opportunities to hold a publisher accountable for this action. If we're successful in charges being pressed against Ubisoft, this can have a ripple effect on the video games industry to prevent publishers from destroying more games.
I'll tell you this much, Ubisoft don't want to set up some old token rings? Token ring network? No. People don't even know what you're talking about. You're probably thinking, people are most thinking you're talking about Lord of the Rings, and that ain't what she's talking about. Anyway. Yeah, this right here, what you talking about, brought up Ubisoft. Ubisoft actually, I forget when it was. It's almost like maybe 9 or 10 months ago or even a year ago, came out and said, sorry, our customers don't own the games and we can do whatever we want with them. We could take them away from you if we want, which is a bad thing to say as a developer and a publisher of video games. Then you wonder why they're financially going downhill. You can't make statements like that. It kind of, people saw that. I didn't talk about it, but I saw the backlash about that. That was something that, and I'll be honest with you, I don't play a lot of Ubisoft games because of it. I don't buy them from them. I'd much rather buy mine on Steam. Just because of, they seem wishy-washy to me now. They don't care about their customers. You don't do that in a customer-oriented, driven business. You're shooting yourself in the foot. That's like saying, yep, I just paid 15 grand for a brand new car at the dealership. And a week later, the dealership comes back, sorry, you don't own that car. We still do, and we're taking it from you now. What? I paid $15,000 for it. Yeah, but we made the car.
First
you
off,
didn't.
I don't like the idea.
It's so we own the car technically. That's kind of the gist of this. And now that's not the case when it comes to cars, but that's exactly what the industry is trying to do right here. And it's part of the reason why this initiative has come about. Because it's like they're trying to get developers, hold them accountable to stop doing the practices they're doing. It's, in a way, almost kind of like robbery, delayed robbery. They're taking your money, then all of a sudden shutting down a game. You can't play it no more, and you don't get a refund for the time you played it or what you bought. You're just out of luck. That's just wrong.
Idea in this that it has a player base of 12 million people. That is not how long-running games work. There is a large number of people that buy the game, and that player base slowly dwindles off until nobody is playing it anymore. If there's any costs associated with keeping the game online, which this was an online video game, then eventually it costs more to keep it online than it does to keep running it, right? So the cost outweighs the amount of income for it. There are...
And see, that's exactly what happens to a live service game. Eventually, the developers will get to a point where we can no longer afford to keep running these servers because our player base is gone. For example, I know that Tracy's heard me talk about this with Once Human. This is how Once Human and other games like it, live service, could actually die and you'd no longer be able to play it again. If the developers aren't making enough money to offset the cost of providing the servers, well, then what happens? They're just going to shut off the servers, which means you are out of luck and you can't play the game no more. And for what I've seen, for example, of Once Human and other games like it, like PAX Die and so forth, that killed off their player base that is slowly dying, that is a real reality here that can happen. I, for one, don't want to see that happen to these games. Something needs to be done to hold these developers accountable. Okay, before you shut down the servers, then provide a way for the community to still maybe set up their own personal private servers so they can still play the game, and maybe in a diminished capacity, but not be able to not play it, but still be able to play it. Anyway.
Are bad business practices that can occur in there. There are companies that will sell a online-only game as a single-player experience and kind of just put it into the TOS and hide it. But not all companies do that. When they do, we should be calling out that specific company, not all companies. So let's take a look at this and find out more about the crew itself. And if we pull up their Wikipedia, we can see that the crew was actually created in 2014, which, much to the hatred of all of us oldies on the internet, was 10 years ago. Oh. So this was an online-only racing video game developed by Ubisoft Ivory Tower and Ubisoft Reflections and published by Ubisoft. So all Ubisoft, right? With that in mind, it said it was a scaled-down recreation of the contiguous United States and included both role-playing and large-scale multiplayer elements. So it had a massive multiplayer component to it. It is an online-only service-based game, and they shut it down 10 years later. On March 31st, 2024, Ubisoft shut down the game's servers, rendering the game unplayable, which is normal for live service games. The only thing that I can see in here that could be a problem is if they posted as not an online-only experience. But everything that I found online shows that the game was always marketed as online only. If you're going to be buying an online-only game, that means it can only run when it's online. And if the servers need to shut down in the future, far in the future, it makes sense to me for the access to that game to be cut if it's online only. If it's a single player experience that has online only functionality specifically just to shut down the game in the future, and the online only doesn't actually add any gameplay functionality, I'd agree with you. That's a business practice, but that's really rare. And in the specific cases where it does happen, we should call out that, not just all games and not all live service games. Further, there's more context to this too. The Crew itself came out in 2014, but it actually had a sequel that came out in 2018.
Yeah,
and
The
then
Crew
it had
2.
another sequel that came out in 2023. And if we go to the Crew's SteamDB, which again is not going to be all of the player base for this. It's only going to show the ones who were playing it through Steam. It was on multiple platforms. And we look at the max here. It did start out with a sizable amount of community, and then it degraded. And it had a major drop-off in 2018, which is the same year that it launched a sequel. This is normal. When a sequel comes out, a lot of the player base, if the sequel doesn't sell, will move over to it. And then the servers effectively...
He's right. He is right about that. I mean, when a sequel comes out, I mean, look, that's exactly what's happened with so many games out there. Like, one that comes to my mind is GTA 5. Right now has been dominating the online service, live service games for years. But I guarantee you, if GTA 6 comes out and it's any good, you're going to see the player base for GTA 5 drop off like someone holding a skunk and don't want to get sprayed. That's how fast it's going to happen. That was a weird analogy. Anyway, what is going on? YouTube dropped off again, did it? God, picking. Okay. This is now officially the Rumble portion of the video. I mean, of the stream, I guess. I don't know. God, picking blasted. I don't know. It just says I'm offline on YouTube. All right. Well, I don't know what happened. But either way, last thing I'm going to read about this on Stop Killing Games, and then I'm going to end Penguin Thoughts. I think we're still going on Rumble. I'd have to look. Hold on, let me see. Come on. Yeah, okay. We're still on live on Rumble. I don't know why I'm not live on YouTube anymore. I'll have to find out later. I really thought that problem was over with. Oh, wait a minute. What did it do? I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. Anyway, here's why I brought up the Stop Killing Games movement. Stop Killing Games movement gained support from big-time influencer and gaming industry veteran. There's some people that are taking notice of this. And Stop Killing Games campaign is picking up serious momentum as two of the biggest voices in gaming and YouTube titan PewDiePie and former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern, a.k.a. Grums. They publicly threw their support behind the growing global effort. So the fact that people are big YouTuber gamers and streamers are taking note of this. Yeah, you can't. Okay, Tracy, you came over here to tell you that YouTube is still buffering. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. I gotta figure out. Maybe they took down my stream, or maybe it just lost connectivity. Who knows? I'm just so fed up with this. Anyway, It's like, of all the platforms I stream on, YouTube's the only one I have the most trouble with. I don't have a problem with Rumble. I don't have a problem with Twitch. Didn't even ever have a problem with Kick when I used to stream on it. Only on YouTube. Anyway. So, I said that to say this about Stop Killing Games. People are taking notice, and people are moving and trying to bring it to the forefront to kind of put the word out there that developers, hey, you're on notice. We're seeing you doing this. You need to maybe change your practices. Like, I don't know. Tell us up front it's not a single-player game and that it is a multiplayer online game and that eventually the servers will go down. You won't be able to play anymore. Or how about even better yet, provide an option before you shut the servers down, the official servers, that allow the gaming community that still loves playing your game to be able to set their own private servers apart from the official servers so they can still keep playing the game, even if you're not going to support it anymore. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on it. Now, one last thing I will leave you with here. Since tomorrow is July 4th for those of us in America, there is a song. I'm going to read the lyrics to you. I can't play it because they get a copyright strike, definitely for sure. But there's a guy named Carmen that back in 1993 made this song called America Again. And I'm going to read the lyrics to it. And it's wild how reading through this and listening to it earlier, it sounds exactly like what America is like right now, this day. So let's zoom in here so you can read a little bit better. It says right here, this is the beginning of the song. I'm just reading the song to you. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, first Chief Justice John Jay, named synonymous with the spirit of our country, the founding fathers of the USA. Over 200 years ago, they shook off the chains of tyranny from Great Britain by divine call, citing 27 biblical violations that wrote the Declaration of Independence with liberty and justice for all. But something happened since Jefferson called the Bible the cornerstone for the American liberty, then put it in our schools as a light. Or since give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry said, our country is founded on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We eliminated God from the equation of American life, thus eliminating the reason this nation first began. From beyond the grave, I hear the voices of our founding fathers plead, you need God in America again. Of the 55 men who formed the Constitution, 52 were active members of their church. Founding fathers like Noah Webster, who wrote the first dictionary, could literally quote the Bible chapter and verse. James Madison said, we've staked our future on our ability to follow the 10 Commandments with all our heart. These men believed you couldn't even call yourself an American if you subverted the Word of God. In his farewell address, Washington said, our first president, George Washington, said this, you can't have national morality apart from religious principle. And it's true, because right now we have nearly 150,000 kids carrying guns to these war zones we call public schools. It's probably even more than that. This is back in 1993 when he wrote this. In the 40s and 50s, students' problems were chewing gum and talking. In the 90s, it's rape and murder are the trend. And in the 2000s or so, it's gender ideology and wokeness. The only way this nation can even hope to last the decade and future is to put God in America again. The only hope for America is Jesus. This is the chorus. The only hope for America is him. If we repent of our ways, stand firm and say, We need God in America again. Abe Lincoln, one of my favorite presidents of all time, the 16th president. The philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of the government of the next. So when you eliminate the word of God from classroom and politics, you eliminate the nation that word protects. America is now #1 in teen pregnancy and violent crime, #1 in illiteracy, drug use, and divorce. Every day, a new holocaust of 5,000 unborn die, probably even more than that now, while pornography flood our streets like open sewers. America's dead and dying hand is on the threshold of the church. While the spirit of Sodom and Gomorrah vexes us all, when it gets to the point where people would rather come out of the closet, talk about homosexuality and stuff, than clean it or sin, it's a sign that the judgment of God is going to fall. If there's ever been a time to rise up church, it's now. As the blood-bought saints of the living God proclaim that it's time to send the alarm from the church house to the White House and say, we want God in America again. I believe it's time, America, to stand up and proclaim that one nation under God is our demand and send this evil lifestyle back to Satan where it came from. And let the word of God revive our dying land. For Jesus Christ is coming back again in all his glory. That's so good, I got to say that again. For Jesus Christ is coming back again in all his glory. And every eye shall see him on that day. That's why a new anointing of God's power coming up on us to boldly tell the world you must be saved. Because astrology won't save you. Your horoscope won't save you. Wokeness won't save you. The Bible says these things are all a farce. If you're born again, you don't need to look to the stars for your answers because you can look to the very one who made those stars. History tells us time and time again, to live like there's no God makes you a fool. If you want to see kids live right, stop handing out condoms and start handing out the word of God in schools. The only hope for America is Jesus. The only hope for America is him. If we repent of our ways, stand firm and say, we need God in America again. That song is still so true today. As we come to celebrate once again this 4th of July, of our nation fleeing tyranny from Great Britain, and that we have the freedom to believe what we want, to say what we want in this country, and to live the way we want. I hope that each one of us will turn just for a moment and think about who gave us that freedom. Yes, it was the men and women who died in all the wars leading up till now to give us that freedom. But more importantly, it was God that gave us that freedom here in America. It's Jesus Christ who gave his life on the cross for each one of us to give us that freedom. Not just freedom to live the way we want, but freedom from sin, from eternal death and damnation made for the Satan and his demons in hell. Not for us. That's who Jesus saved, was us when he died on the cross for us. So I hope that maybe you just might take a few moments and think about when you're watching those fireworks or thinking about the 4th of July or having that great piece of apple pie or some hot dogs, you might just think about just how awesome this country we live in and how we're able to live in this country the way it is. That we have the freedom to live free. To live the way we want, to believe the way we want, to raise our kids the way we want, to choose what video game you want to play and when you play it. And most importantly, that God has given us this freedom in this country, not only so that we can be free for the rest of the world to bring that same freedom, but also so that we are free to acknowledge Him in our lives and that we have the freedom and capability to have the forgiveness of our sins from the ultimate freedom and paid price that Jesus paid for each one of us on the cross. So, from this little penguin tart to you out there who's watching this or listening to it later or whatever, I hope you have an awesome 4th of July. Don't eat any fish that are like, sparkly like fireworks because they're not supposed to be that way. Get out the tartar sauce. Thank God for the tartar sauce you have to eat with this fish because not everybody has tartar sauce. Anyway, and I'm going to stop rambling, but I hope you have a good 4th of July and celebrate the freedom that comes only in this nation and, more importantly, only in Christ. All right, peoples, enough rambling from this crazy penguin. I'll catch you in the next one. Later. Make sure you sip play iced coffee over the holiday. You got to stay hydrated. Okay, see ya. Have a good 4th. Don't blow anything up. At least not anything worth anything. Do it in video games, though. That's fun. Later, peeps.